This is the Construction Insiders Podcast. I'm Jessica Bush, bringing you the newest trends and strategies in construction, essential to anyone in the industry. Welcome to today's episode of the Construction Insiders Podcast. We're going to sit down with Betton and Jeff Yachmetz, and we are going to discuss the combining of the luxury, residential, hospitality, and retail sectors becoming a powerful one-stop shop sector. So, gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Before we jump in, for those listeners that might not be as familiar with your backgrounds and kind of why you would be here for this conversation, would you mind giving us a brief introduction?
Sure. So I'm Jeff Yachmetz. I'm the Executive Vice President for Dilmon, LLC. We're a family office investor platform, and we invest in a variety of different asset types, real estate in hospitality, luxury residential, luxury retail, highest and best use.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'm Betton, Director of Project Management at Cumming Group. I've worked for Cumming Group for nearly 9 years now, initially in the United Kingdom in London, and moved over to New York around 2.5 years ago. At that point, I got to work with Jeff initially, working on One Wall Street and the sort of closeout and handover occupancy. And then we moved on to Printemps, which we'll be talking about later today. I love retail, luxury, hospitality, residential projects, and it's a real passion of mine. So I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. So as we get into this conversation, we've noticed this huge push of commercial to residential conversions. What makes that leap so difficult for this type of movement? And what specific building characteristics, I guess, would you need in a commercial property to make it suitable for residential?
Yeah, so the residential to conversion of an office building is it goes through sort of a life cycle of considerations. We have to find the right building location, obviously. We have to find the right building that has the correct layout for a residential building. Ceiling heights of residential buildings are always a factor. So we're looking at, how high they are in a commercial building. If you really look at how commercial buildings are designed, they're designed inherently different than a residential building. So making that conversion from commercial to residential, you're weighing in a variety of factors.
Okay. So not only I'm assuming you're looking at the characteristics of the bones and kind of what can be done with that commercial building, but also we're dealing with building codes, regulations, specifically New York. I know there's probably quite a few hurdles to jump. Are these helping, hindering conversions?
So as of recently, the city of New York has helped the conversion world actually progress. Up to this point, there was a very select few buildings that met the criteria in terms of zoning, in terms of zoning and the location that they were. Recently, the city passed new zoning code that actually expanded those criteria and opened up a whole new world of opportunity for the conversion developer.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so it's not typical, I guess, to have a city really helping. I just was doing a different hospitality podcast. We were talking about LA zoning, pre-fires, and how this environment here in New York sounds like it's really helping those conversions.
It was really a sort of a byproduct of a few factors. One, the pandemic was a factor. There was a real push for opening up more housing in the city of New York. As the commercial world expanded and Class B buildings became obsolete as more Class A office buildings came on, the city was left with a glut of actual underutilized commercial buildings. The city recognized that and saw the need for housing and actually pushed legislation forward that actually helped create more housing.
So it all sounds positive, but I'm assuming there are some just kind of structural challenges. Even if the codes and regulations or permits are helping us push, what are some of those structural challenges that you've encountered, and maybe even you too, Seb, about what you've had to kind of deal with on the job?
Sure. Finding the right conversion is almost like finding the needle in the haystack.
Okay.
Again, because, when you design a commercial building, you basically design a commercial building from the outside in, whereas a residential building, you start with the core from the inside out and lay out your units.
Right.
So you're dealing with a column grid that's designed for an office makeup. You're also dealing with a core, an elevator, and egress stair makeup that's designed for a commercial office space. So working those factors into making the most efficient, best laid out units is one of the factors that you work into your performance, your design decisions.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think following on from that, you'll see with One Wall Street in particular, it's the layouts, it's the apartments that you get from that and you gain. It's also, you can look into MEPs within that space, and obviously at One Wall Street, they were moved around. There was lots of new MEP systems that were put in, but that's something that obviously is a challenge when you're converting those existing office buildings to residential.
And so, how do you approach, I guess, that differently, just from a space planning perspective, when you're converting versus building new?
Well, at One Wall Street, we actually have 145 different layouts.
Okay.
Which is not the most efficient way to lay out a building.
Holy cow.
However, we recognize that when we started One Wall Street, we decided that we were going to gut the entire building down to structure and facade.
Okay.
Everything else was brand new. So working with the existing structure, we recognized that not everything was going to stack like a new ground up development.
It's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy. Or cost effective. But what it did do was give us the most incredible, most efficient residential layouts possible, working within the confines of that space.
Okay. It's a little creativity thrown in there.
A little creativity.
I like it. So let's talk about expectations. Today's expectations, this integration of hospitality, retail, residential. It seems to be, from what I've been reading, really just a requirement to have a successful building. So how would you define today's amenities and kind of for just the luxury sector? What are those requirements, if we were to call them that?
Sure. I mean, the best way that I could describe it is it's an amenities arms race. I mean, it used to be that the must-have was a screening room, a golf simulator, maybe a little pool, a gym. Today, that has been elevated to another level. We're talking about hospitality branded residences where you can have 24-hour room service. You could have maid service. You could have linen service. You could have access to all different types of specialty programs that a hospitality brand would have that a residential building might not have. We've elevated our amenities as well to incorporate what's going on in the world today. With the advent of the work from home,
yes,
we leaned into a co-working space within the building, which has 2 boardrooms, podcasting rooms where you can actually do your podcast from home. We could have did it from One Wall Street, coming at you live. But those were the feedback that we got from the market at the time, which was we're taking amenities to another level.
And of those amenities, what have you seen, whether it's at One Wall or somewhere else, to be the most successful new additions when integrated into that setting, that residential setting?
Well, definitely the hospitality branding and hospitality services in a residential building. I think that is the new bar that everybody is striving to achieve. At One Wall Street, we have a full-service restaurant, social club, and bar for our residents, having the ability to have a sit-down dinner or have a drink or have a glass of wine at happy hour in your building,
your home,
without having to go outside your front door, is something that I think a lot of people are striving for, and we're getting excellent feedback from it.
That's wonderful.
I think that comes back to convenience and post-pandemic. And it's that people want a sort of one-stop shop hybrid environment that they're when they're at home, they can, as Jeff said, they can go to a fine dining restaurant, but also at One Wall Street, they can go to Whole Foods, they can go to the gym, they can go and have their hair done in the salon at Printemps. You know, they have everything at their doorstep, and it's convenience. And I think that's very much what the market's looking at.
You combine that with residential. How do you balance those operational needs and the privacy of your residents in a situation like this?
Sure. I mean, the way that we approached it was we did not look at the building as two separate entities, a retail component and a residential component. We looked at it as a totally integrated experiential living lifestyle.
From day one.
From day one.
Okay.
So when we looked at the retail component, we knew that was going to be a very important part of the building itself and the city within the city, if you would.
Okay.
So we looked at how would they actually operate, how would they load, how would they unload, how would they go about their business without having any negative impacts on our residents. So we looked at segregated loading areas. We looked at hours of operation, separation between the residential and the retail itself for noise.
So it wasn't an afterthought.
It was not an afterthought at all. It was from day one integrated into the overall plan for the building, which is a total luxury lifestyle, not just luxury real estate.
There happens to be a Whole Foods down the street, and
exactly.
It's just okay. So what do you think is driving? You were talking about, post-pandemic. What is driving this convergence? And kind of this mandated now, if you want to be successful, combination of hospitality, retail, residential, from a market perspective. Why is this? Is it here to stay, and why? What's driving it?
Sure. I mean, there's no secret that the market has some headwinds, and it has since the pandemic. It has gotten incredibly better than where it was. However, we came out into this brand new world of how everyone approaches living. How are they going to approach their home? And it used to be where it was a very nice finished building. It had a very nice amenity. Well, we had to take it to another level because people expected another level. And I think we saw that across the marketplace.
And the competition of others.
The competition, correct, was actually responding, and we responded in kind. And I think it's actually ultimately benefited the end user, which you have this now luxury lifestyle where everything and anything that you could almost imagine is at your disposal.
How do you determine what's at your disposal? How do you determine that right mix for the location, the demographic? How are you determining what they really want?
Well, I feel like we're at a little bit of an advantage because our investment platform, we have a very strong position in very high-end luxury hospitality. We have a very strong position in luxury retail. So we almost kind of took all of the feedback from all of our different business units and combined it into sort of one sort of investment strategy at this property, taking lessons learned from all the many years that we have in each of those businesses and leveraging it at this one. And the market actually responded to it.
So if you don't mind, I might pause you guys right here. Let's take a brief moment. Let's come back in a few and talk specifically about Printemps, the project, expectations, and the future of luxury experiences.
Sounds
great.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Check back in the coming weeks to continue the conversation about luxury hospitality and retail with Jessica Bush, Jeff Yachmetz, and Betten. And don't forget to subscribe to get notifications when new episodes of the Construction Insiders podcast go live.